Hello, God bless you. This is Ellen Mongan, and I'm the host today of Go Tell the World. My co-host is Emily Jaminet. She's going to introduce herself, and after all these years, I learned to say her name correctly. Hey, Emily, how you doing?
Good morning, Ellen. Thank you. I'm so happy that we get to spend time together. And one of the things I love about technology is we literally get to record a conversation we're having. So isn't
And look,
that
so sorry. Yes, and look who's here. Look who's here. Surprise guest. Our other co-host is Jane Ann. Jan, we love you. How you doing? You look lovely. We missed you. I go, Jan has so many good tips on this subject. I was thinking she has some great faith stories on this subject. So Emily's going to kind of lead in a way the conversation, and we'll take turns. Go ahead.
great? So I picture us, sitting at coffee, getting ready to, kind of anticipate the big Christmas season. And, what does the Lord want me to receive? Not just through the gift of the sacraments, but even just some wisdom from these other women. So one of the things I would love to just kind of highlight is we are still in the Advent season, but Christmas is 2 weeks away, just about less than 2 weeks. And with that, I've been really reflecting on not only my own heart, the culture of my home, but what kind of Christmas experience do I want my family to encounter? So I think that when we think ahead a little bit, we get less reactive and we get a little bit more purposeful. And as a result, it's going to hopefully have the attributes of the kingdom, which is peace, love, and joy. And that's the greatest gift we can give our family this Christmas is a peaceful mom, a joyful mom, a happy mom, a well-planned mom, so that we're not just throwing sticks in the oven, on Christmas Eve and kind of barking out our orders. So I think that an important topic that we really, rekindling the true spirit of Christmas. And also all of us are, I imagine, are going to be doing some hospitality as well.
Yes. Very excited. Great order of things. I always say it's from Rachel Balducci. If y'all know her, her daddy used to always say, prior planning prevents poor performance. And Jane Ann and Emily are queens of prior planning. When you have a lot of children like the three of us do, you can't help but plan ahead because it prevents disaster. Jan, what do you think? What do you think about planning out on Christmas or on Advent?
Yes, absolutely. Planning ahead is very crucial. And I do have to say I lack a little bit in that area because sometimes I have so many children and there's so many variables going on in my life, I tend to kind of operate in I guess the urgent. So I definitely recommend that. And that's definitely having a calendar of events that you're going to attend and preparing the events that maybe you're going to attend with your family. So yeah, definitely preparation.
Well, I think that gets us to our very first point, and that's align with the church, right? Because if it was just about party planning, we might be on a sub Martha Stewart kind of, talking about the perfect cookie and the perfect, beef Wellington. But those things are important, but really getting to mass and making sure that our heart is ready, and that's why I think the first place to start is with Mother Church. And that's why as much as we are, enjoying the Advent season and there's a lot of celebration going on around us and we continue to get those Christmas cards from friends, or I have an afternoon brunch tomorrow with some fellow moms as well. We still want to make sure that we don't burn out before even Christmas morning. And I think the world gets a little burnt out, before the true merriment even really begins.
And sometimes you have to take a retreat after Christmas. I highly recommend it because you start with, like she's saying, you start like in like a lion out like a lamb. It's like, I'm going to do everything. And then you do tire, even if you pace yourself with large families. I'm an older mom than these gals. And I find that passing the baton, at first I didn't want to do that. And delegating, when you're a young mom, you guys are young and older moms, both things. You have older kids, but not as old as mine. And the thing is, you pass the baton. At first, it feels uncomfortable to think that mom's supposed to do it all. But I learned that if mom did it all, she'd be dead. So I used to say that to my kids, starting when they're real little. If mom did it all, she'd be dead. And then, of course, they probably pray for me under their breath. But other than that, they decide to step up. And so we divide and conquer on the holidays. even when they're little, they all help wrap gifts, so they all help deliver. I do that, and I write, like, I write a huge amount of Christmas cards. That's my big highlight. And they used to put the stamps on. Any way you can pass the baton in the midst of doing it, like keeping the merriment of Christmas, like keeping the songs going in the house, and the tone of the home is the mom's job, set the tone of the home.
I like that. That's a really good point about delegating. And even within the family unit, like if you have a family meal, a lot of times instead of one person, my one friend said it's like mother hazing. If one person is stuck with everything, it's like not fair. And as a result, we want a culture where we continue to repeat traditions year in and year out. So making it, a little bit more reasonable makes a big difference. I remember one year my brother showed up with those microwavable Bob Evans potatoes. And I was like, I just felt like we couldn't afford that. And why are we microwaving the potatoes? But I realized for him in that moment with the ages of his kids, that's how he could, contribute to the meal. And so if we make, the perfect outdo the good, we just might cancel some of these beautiful opportunities to be with family. And so now I recognize I always have Bob Evan mashed potatoes, one microwave away, if that's what we need to do in that season of our life.
I think delegating is good because we're kind of in a new season. We have some that are married. I have 3 children that are married, and now we have daughter-in-laws. And so I think it's a great opportunity for them to show forth bring forth their giftings as well, and so I'm all about delegating. Even at Thanksgiving, we all pitched in. So I think that's very important. And I think sometimes if you really think that you're going to do it all on your own, I don't know, I think we could get into pride maybe a little bit on that. I don't know, and I think that kind of rolls into some perfectionism. I know I have been guilty of that a little bit, but yeah, I think delegating is good because it gives everybody an opportunity to do their giftings, or maybe to create something new, get creative in the kitchen.
And that's the one more thing about Emily, about delegate, and also Jan, about pass the baton. In our home, even when I had young children, we did a lot of traditions. Every holiday, lots of traditions. And then if the traditions started to get to be a burden instead of a blessing, I'd have to say, we're not going to do this. It would be a lot of times because it's like buying a new dog. I don't do animals, buy a dog, and you think it's gonna be great. The family's gonna take apart, and then when you're doing it all, then you have to say, well, this isn't working for right now, or maybe for this season. And I did so many transfers. And at the end, we would tell little traditions that we do that are Jesus oriented. Emily, do you think I won't put it in here, but I think it was I would do that with. And then the fact that keep the merriment of Christmas in their heart. When the kids were little, we went to daily mass every day. We did. I dragged whoever I was with, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old baby in arms. We're going to daily mass. They thought it was a ton of fun. It was part of their life. Now I want to say now, moms, don't be discouraged if some of them that you in hand carried the daily mass in your arms or went along and they were so happy to be there. How they've changed their attitude a little. They will come back. I really do believe that because the scripture is clear on that. So I don't worry. We don't try to, we try to still do traditions. We don't try to micromanage what they're doing. If we go on family holiday and people don't go to mass, we don't go, are you going to mass? Because they're older. And I always say, when they're older, you pray more and say less until they ask you, Mom, how'd you do this or that? Then I speak up like with wisdom.
Well, I think it's important to talk about Christmas and mass, because a lot of times I found where my older children struggle is when I don't clearly have a plan. When they're coming home from college and they're coming home and I don't say, oh, the expectation is we're going to mass on Christmas Day. That's an important conversation to have with your family so that I think young adults especially don't like that feeling where we're tugging and pulling and we're last minute planning. And all of a sudden, they're sitting down to have a cup of coffee and you're like, we're running to mass, and a lot of times I would say, you didn't tell me. And I realized that my lack of planning the important things like the sacraments, when we're going to go to mass, or everyone I want to do. Last week we did a parish mission, and for 5 days I told my children, we're going to the parish mission on Wednesday at 7 p.m. We're going to the parish mission. And even that day, what did you say? Where are we going? And the goal was they were there, and even if they were late, I'm not gonna, don't give that mean scoldy mom look. Let's make sure our facial expressions show that we're happy when they participate, and that we don't, then all of a sudden start harping on how they're dressed and how they walked in the door and did they do
Mhm.
that. So I think the big goals are important. So for us, our family, it was a parish mission, reconciliation, and attending mass. Those are our three key points. And the other stuff is always bonus on top.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm talking more like my oldest is 49 and all my kids are married but one. So, you know what I'm saying? Once they, you have to be understanding because I don't know how old your oldest is, but once they get to a certain age, you kind of can be the, you might be pushing away rather than putting towards, but when they're under your roof and you're still paying for college or you're paying, then that's a different, just so people that are listening clarify, because you have to know your candidate, right? You have to know your kids. You have to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And for my age, I'm 70. I always say that on the air, some people don't think I'm 70 years old, and I've done parenting a long time. And my kids were, especially within a home, were expected to go to mass. There was no choice. So the people walk away judging me, they're like, Lord. But when they're older, then you have to know, like Jan just now is married. You have some married, Emily? Do you have some married children?
Yeah, my oldest is engaged to be married. So
It changes. Things change as they grow. It does change. And you don't want them to feel like, man, I train my kids up. They're not going to church. You know what I'm saying? So thank you so much. Because I don't want to make it women, of course, we guide them towards the mass, and if they're in our home, we make them go because they're under our roof. And then once the freedom of adulthood is, God wants us all to make free choice, and we do pray. We pray fervently. I will say that. How about you, Jen, and in your family? How do you do that? How do you have
To
married?
organize for mass. Yes, we
Do they tell you tell the married children they're going to mass?
no, oh no, no.
So that's okay.
That would not go over well.
They're not gonna
Because
say
we're
they-
married.
Kids probably will do it. I don't know, they may, but they're just the ones, I'm saying, the ones under your roof for sure.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay.
When you're living under our roof, then you have to, abide by a set of rules that we do have. But pretty much everybody, because I think when they were little, because I have one that's 6th grade, and sometimes I do hear, oh, do I have to go to mass? I'm like, no, you get to go to mass. This is the awesome opportunity, so I kind of do that thing. But no, we do have children living here, and they actually we all go to the same parish, which I'm grateful beyond words. So yeah, that's how that works. But when they were all under the roof, yes, we all went to mass. But our church has different mass times, which makes a little bit of a difference too. We have like 4 different ones to choose from. So anyway, but usually we have a family group chat, and we're like, what time which mass are you going to, and things like that. But yes.
And you're a really good pastor, Father Johnny Johnson, Father John.
Oh, he's amazing.
But
Yeah,
he
we
draws
really
you
enjoy him.
because our old parish we're in Macon, we love it. So shout out to that. No, Emily, take it away.
well, no, I was just going to comment, like, I think what we can do is we can even soften it, and maybe first invitation. This is the time we're going to be at mass. After mass, we're going to have, a happy hour. Like, think about maybe what the adults, might make them feel more connected. And what I realized is it's how I speak to my children. And my children, like, especially, they love to be with their grandparents, for example. So we try to make sure that, we do that together. But I also remind my children, that if they're going to someone's house, right? If they're staying at someone's house, that expectation of, I would want you to participate. If you were visiting, a Jewish side of the family, would you be respectful? Would you be of faith as well, or a different, Christian? But I think that setting that kind of that expectation of talking about the liturgy and when we're going to go, I think it ties in the merriment of Christmas, because Jesus needs, as my youngest said to me, isn't that amazing that we get presents on our God's birthday? And I think that's an important reminder that presents just don't come from elves and Santas and the magic of what the world presents it as. These are gifts from the heart, because we love God and we want to bring that peace, love, and joy. So when we keep it focused, and maybe it's, before we open the presents, saying that prayer of gratitude. We always do prayers of thanksgiving around the table, if it's whatever that holiday is. And then also, my husband and I usually begin with a prayer, and we say, we give God all the glory. And I know, Jane Ann, you were just telling me that you really trust, you really even say, Lord, like, this is important. Can you please, you step forward with faith that Christmas and a joyful event. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yes. So since our children were very little, so my husband and I have been married for 31 years. And this is going to involve a little bit of finances here. So we have 11 children. So I could just, people have a backstory of where I'm coming from. So when all 11 children were, there, and yeah, so my husband is a very hard worker, but it's a lot of money when you have to provide, 11 children with gifts. And so I just believed God. He said he'll show up and he'll do it. So I would always have a budget. This is how much we're going to spend on each child. And then I would believe God. Actually, I would believe God and just thank God ahead of time for the finances, amount of money for each child, that we knew how much we were going to spend. And God has provided for 31 years every single time. We've never gone into debt for Christmas ever. So yes, I have. That's the way I've lived. That's the way my husband and I have lived. And I just had that conversation with our children, some of our younger children, now that, are kind of, they're all helping me get gifts for the other children. And so they're like, so Mom, what's your budget? Which I love that they're asking the question, it's like we're setting up a path, for them to follow. So yeah, don't go into debt over Christmas. It's because the stress down the road is going to be hard. And we don't need to add more stress with already a large family anyway. So, yeah.
I was just telling Ellen that I was listening to the statistics recently that the majority of Americans are still paying off last year's Christmas. And that really struck me, again, with the kingdom, if we want to have peace, love, and joy in our family, it doesn't have to be it shouldn't be the focus of what am I going to get, and the materialism or the unrealistic expectations. And one of the things we did this year is my husband and I went away in September, and we started talking about Christmas back in September. And what I found, Catholic moms, like, August, September, and October are great shopping months because everything's transitioning. And a lot of times, at the end of the summer is when I buy Easter basket stuff, and so I have that supplies of chalks and bubbles and everything that at the end of the season they didn't want that year, which is great for Easter baskets. But when it comes to Christmas as well, I find that if you go into December and you're at like December 10th and you need gifts for every single person, you're in a place of like stress and desperate and anxious versus like, getting on budget and then saying, what's a token gift of my love. And we even took December 1st off as well. I begged my husband to take the day off. I'm like, please, just even a couple hours. And I pulled out everything that I had bought, and we looked at it together, and then we put it in categories. So we have all 7 kids, and then, all the other gifts, my parents, this and that. And we started working through it. And a lot of the gifts I bought, such as jewelry for the girls, I bought a couple nice jackets, were secondhand. And that little brand name that they all want to wear, my kids don't need it to be full price because it came from the store. My kids are just happy to wear, what they like. So that's another great way I love step out in faith, trust the Lord, don't go in debt. And then the whole Christmas morning to me is the miracle that under the tree, that been able to provide this, in honor of the true meaning of Christmas with the Lord. So those are just some thoughts and reflections.
Those are great.
You guys may not like this. My husband is very much a simplifier, and I'm like an extravagant. If you ever been on the show with Sterling and I, she's a minimizer and I'm a maximizer. But married to Pat, there was no way that we bought a list of things for the kids. He decided they would have one gift. And so I would say to my children, now listen, you're gonna get one gift. What do you want? One gives Lily one to squirt, and I go, no, pick something bigger. Because I knew my husband, my girls go down, even some that have a lot of money. There's one daughter that does the 3 gift thing. Do you know about that? Like something to read, something to, we all finish in the blanks, please, at the end. But I thought that was great. My mom and dad, on the other hand, and my in-laws would bring huge amounts of gifts. So it wasn't that they lacked, but Pat still holds to the simplicity of Christmas and trying to make it not like, look what Santa did, but make it like, we're getting presents because of Jesus, and it's important. Pat's a deacon. He decided he would actually be on the altar. He was chosen to be on the altar 2 times on Christmas Day, and we're hosting Christmas Day. So y'all talk about, how you feel when you're surprised. I found this week, we need to buy food to bring in because we have a huge family and there's lots of grandkids, and we aren't gonna be able to provide the food by making it, because if you're 76 and you're on the altar 2 times, that's a big part of the day. So we simplify that way, and I usually use my husband's wisdom. If he says we do the presents one, I was wanting to sneak presents. I didn't do that. I avoid the temptation to be like Mrs. Claus. I just basically let him lead on that. They didn't feel like they lacked, but some kids do buy a lot of presents nowadays. I'm sure you're all in the balanced land, but I'm saying this, we did.
Yeah, and you have to do what works for your family and what works for your budget. And we usually go with the 3. When you said the 3, like, what 3 items, do you
what are they?
3 per kid. That's kind of what we go by. And that's kind of how we set up a budget with the amount of money we want to spend on Christmas. And then we also have to include the food. But although when our kids were little and I was doing all the cooking, I felt like, because we homeschooled a lot of the time. And so I felt like, gosh, this is really no different than every day because I'm always cooking this much every day. Usually when families get together, it's because, I have a big meal. This is because, you may not do that all the time, but we were eating together all the time. So, but now it's a different season. I think that's another thing to look at is what is your season in life? And that took me a really long time to just realize that, gosh, and sometimes you may be in a couple of different seasons at the same time. Like Ellen says, we wear many hats. And that's so true. And I think every Christmas really has been, there's been the 3, like, I guess, main staples, the budget, and then, us believing for the money. And then of course we always have a big meal and we go to mass, like we have the main things, but really it's just like every Christmas has been kind of different too, because one Christmas, I had been sick and I had to, I ended up having to have a hysterectomy. And so that was a whole, it was in the middle, I was right before Christmas. So I couldn't even go to a store or walk or anything, so I think everybody's has to determine, what works for their family and their season and their situation, and what if somebody has a sick parent or a sick relative and they have to take care of them. And, that plays into a lot of things as well.
I love that. And we really do kind of a price point. So each child gets a particular amount of money. And then, like if a kid's off at college and we're assisting, like that's a bigger financial burden. So part of it is also explaining to the kids, what, each one of you are in a different season. And so some of you might not realize that meal plan was really expensive for us. And, this one is in this moment, or this one's getting married. So we, it's not even, but it all comes out fair. And I continue to remind the children, it's the intention of the heart that really matters, that this is your dad and I seeking to express the love that we have from Jesus Christ. And more and more, I think when we look to secular Christmas, we can see that it's about materialism. It's about even, granting these wishes. And I wouldn't say we're granting wishes.
Right.
We're with, ski coats or basic things that all year, that they look forward to, but it's got to be in the focus of Jesus. Or I'm telling you, you're going to have crying children or grandchildren if you don't incorporate Christ. That day really can be really, really difficult.
I just never even thought about like that, because we've always, ever since I was a child, that's all we, that's all we did. That's what all I've known.
That's right. I want to say something more for the older parents, though. What the traditions get different when when you have older children. And we do, instead of gifts, we do give cash because, that's what we give because we don't shop. We don't spend all Christmas shopping. Our kids are older. So we give cash to the families or to each child, grandkids. And then we do a family beach trip. And it's the thing, it's in July, usually or June. And we have so much fun that the kids will always say, Mom, we don't care if we ever get presents because we love the togetherness of a large family. And I'm not just saying if you don't have a large family that, you blew it, you didn't. It's whatever God gives you. But when you have a large family, you have to be a little more creative. And you try to, like you said, no favoritism. You try really hard to market the fact we love you all best. And then when they get together, there's no competition. There's no that goes on in a family where there's someone, well, she's a favorite child or he's David with the coat of many colors. You know what I'm saying? To keep that even love the best you can. And then you don't have to make it up. There's some parents, well, I gave him this, like more than you, or it's not like that. You're a parent and you're trying to do the best you can do. And the gift we give them is togetherness and being family. We had a great time every year. And so we always have that and decide where we're going to go. And it gets expensive on the beach trip, but it's in lieu of it eliminates for an older mother wrapping the gifts and buying the gifts and then having the competition. All that eliminates. You're like, yeah, go Pat, do we do anything on Christmas that's traditional? We do Jesus. He's on the altar. He's a deacon 2 times. That's giving our time to the Lord. And we actually market the best we can on loving each other in the family. Don't y'all think with large family is kind of a creative way? You really have to be creative to make them all feel loved and special.
Yes, to me, it's a lot of prayer, like Emily, we were talking about before, a lot of prayer, a lot of preparation. Yes, I mean, and exactly.
And figuring out like the love language that fits your budget, the love language that fits your family style, and that's a really important thing. Is that where's our family at? Like, I find, for example, I did a tea and hot chocolate bar in my house this Advent. And that has brought us so much joy because the kids can go over and I have hot water there and I have, just little honey and marshmallows and candy canes. Like, that is minute in my budget, but it created a memory. It's something that they've enjoyed. And I think that my kids could eat or drink those frou-frou drinks every day, right? So it even worked within my budget. So maybe it's a memory you're focusing on, but I think it's the overall spirit. And that's where I think we have to do as moms a little bit of discernment, of what's the culture of my home? What's the expression of our holidays? Or is everybody, drinking excessively? Are they up late? What are the areas that maybe we could work on? And that's with older children. And younger children, maybe they're just, hide up on sugar and there's not a lot of sleep. And then we're frustrated with their behavior, when they're around grandma, the next day. So maybe as parents, we have that level of discernment. And even with gift giving, pausing and praying, does this gift reflect my morals and values? And I think that's an important component as well. Just because somebody wants that particular doll, if it does not reflect your faith, if it is not appropriate, is it really our job to accommodate that? And I think we've kind of touched on it, but as we focus on Christian Christmas, it's really different than secular Christmas. It's more of a lasting feeling and expression of memory building that isn't just focused on gift giving, or shouldn't be.
Can we talk a little about traditions then? Because that will help some of the parents that want to start new. Like, I was very much into traditions, and I will say one first about Jesus. A Jesus tradition is we had a Jesus stocking hung on our chimney with care. And everyone wrote down on New Year's Eve what they were going to give Jesus and what they wanted Jesus to give them. Like, Lord, I'm giving you this year as your present. And then I'm praying that you would bless, I don't know, but sometimes I pray that they would get toilet trained. So it's like, okay, we're praying your request is that you get toilet trained. Because they're little, when they're little, you do the little things. Big people, you do bigger things. And so we have that. Now we don't do that tradition anymore. That's what I mean about traditions, because our children are under a roof and we don't have that for now, the tradition. But that's when I have a number. But when you all go, what's some of the traditions they can implement in their life? But then on New Year's Eve the next year, we'd open the stocking, everyone read their little envelope where they put their prayer request and their desire, and they'd see if God answered the prayer. And almost always, you know, it was answered, because something so simple like, did so-and-so get to 2 to 3? And yes, he did. But still, nonetheless, it was tradition. And what do you think? What do y'all have for your traditions you have in the home when they're little or even when they're big? Sorry.
Well, with having so many, kind of a lot of children, you know, and having so many littles under tow at that, when we were, you know, in the midst of doing all that, our big thing was, we just kept it simple. We decorating, like putting the tree, going either, you know, going to get a tree or putting up a tree and decorating, and everybody putting on ornaments, because we collected ornaments. People, you know, my parents and my grandmother always gave my kids ornaments and stuff like that. So that's really just kind of been our tradition, is really decorating and just being together and spending time doing that, and kind of reminiscing about Christmases before. And that's one of our main traditions. And now that I have all girls here at the house, they really, they're like 2 months, you know, they're a month out going, okay, so what day are we going to decorate for Christmas? So that's really a big thing. I think that's just more of a tradition for us, is doing the tree. And I don't really have anything from year to year as far as, like, that's a really great idea on the little stocking. I love that. And then one of our other traditions is we always do stockings for everybody. So that's like they always really look forward to we always put a few items in there for stocking stuffers. So that's really just one of our traditions, besides, of course, the mass and then the penance service, and in addition to those things.
Well, one of the things I would say our biggest tradition is Christmas Eve Mass was very stressful when the kids were little, and you know, it was crowded, and so we started going to Mass on Christmas Day. And then Christmas Eve became a really special family dinner. And at the time, it was just little kids. But as it's grown, as my children have aged, it's been really a highlight of having this beautiful long meal that, you know, I said to the kids, like, we're going to be here for well over an hour, you know, at least. So I think that that's something, like having this meal with just our family. Then we go to Mass on Christmas Day, and then we go to my parents' house Christmas Eve. And one of the things we've done is, you know, like, for example, I buy a turkey right after Christmas when it's 99 cents a pound or less, and then put it in my freezer. And in my mind, I say, okay, I'm doing a turkey, twice baked potatoes, and a vegetable. And it really wasn't the expense of, you know, starting to plot and plan. We found my mom's big piece of beef, you know, on sale. And so I threw it in my freezer for her. So a little bit of planning can help you. But I'm kind of a formal person when it comes to meals. Like, I always use fine china. I have all beautiful linens. And that's my gift to the family. It's, you know, some people are paper plate planning families, and that's great. But I have found these beautiful pieces that I enjoy serving on. I don't mind doing the dishes, and I use a lot of candles as well. So we create this atmosphere that maybe we couldn't afford if we were going out to eat, but over the years, it's become really a beautiful tradition.
Kids love that. I'm like, I have one grandmaid, my daughter also, I do China on holidays if I can, if God would let me, but we do paper plates every day when they're little, just because that's what my husband decided. We just did that. But during the week, the special days. So then one of my daughters has that tradition, and one little girl, Lauren, she's a teenager now, and she enjoys doing that too. I do another one really quick, because this is for people for tips along with the spiritual. It's the spiritual and the traditions do go hand in hand. We had a basket on the kitchen table. We had one of those, you know, big kitchen tables, lots of children. And every day we put the Christmas cards in the basket. And when Christmas was over, we would take one card out. Someone would pick the card out of the basket, the Christmas basket. And these come from Mrs. Dobson. I want to give her credit, her old book about memories, making memories with your family. It wasn't my idea, but I did love it. And then we'd read the card after Christmas, one card each night, right? And then we pray for the person, and I'd write a little note. We pulled your card out of the Christmas basket, and we pray for you. But as I had more children, you know, 6, then 7, then Zachary died, I was unable to keep up that tradition, just to even pull the thing and pray. That was all we could do, then to write the letter too. So that's what I was talking about early on the show. It was a great tradition, and the kids loved it, and I loved it. But it came to like having 7 little children and trying to write a little letter. It seemed like a lot of too much, way too much for way too much. So those are what I mean about sometimes a tradition can be good. and you put it on the shelf till another year. But the people they were blessed. I still send out a lot of cards each year, and I love, that's my tradition, hearing from the people and me hearing back, back and forth. So. Oh, hello, guys. We're on the air. This is Ellen Mongan, the host of Go Tell the World, and Emily is leading today, and Jane and Emily. But you have any more traditions? Because I do love traditions. I love to implement them. I love to see them passed down to my children.
Well, we also, like, for our family, when we open gifts, we open them slowly and everyone gives that person attention. And part of it is learning how to receive, I think, is really important. And that's something in which on Christmas, we can be a focus, such as, when you open that present from grandma and you don't love, let's say, that sweater, or even maybe it didn't even fit, or maybe it wasn't even the right perfect gift, but learning to realize that this is an opportunity to say, I love you, thank you. And that, as mothers, really needs to be taught and trained. Or what's the appropriate clothes to wear to mass? I think these are opportunities to really help our children understand the gift of these important feast days, celebrations, but also the opportunity to enter in and learn. And as moms, we get to help with that. And so year in and year out, it might seem a little discouraging, but year in and year out and season on, you will see those fruits of your kids being good receivers, or good givers, or even just we started talking about dressing appropriately for mass for Christmas, not the day before, but weeks before, with our older children, our teenage daughters especially. And I think that's something that is more than a tradition, but it's an opportunity as well.
It's a way of life. I mean, yeah. You're doing it all through the year. You're teaching, you're training. That's just a way of life.
They contain those, and you see virtue grow in their heart, and did you like the gift? No, but I was grateful to grandma. I think it's very important. Generally train them up. It will go through their soul. It's so much harder to train up a child that's like 40 or 32 than one that's been trained since the beginning of the year. No, it is. I really have, my kids are virtuous children. I really do like that about them. But I'm saying, if you meet someone that wasn't formed in the church and they don't have character or virtue, they don't know they're offending or insulting someone. They just don't know. Our kids know. And I really do love traditions, and I don't mean to keep harping on it. There's so many traditions in the church. We have the Advent calendar, the ones the kids open each day. We did that little, and the candles, the Advent wreath. Does anyone want to touch on that? Because we love our wreath, and I want to make a plug for Lisa that started Catholic Mom. She has a beautiful booklet out about the Advent wreath. Does anyone want to touch on that?
Yeah, we have our Advent wreath right on our dining room table. And so part of it, I tell people, dust off that dining room table, use your dinner. Don't just eat in front of the TV. And, I have the lighter, the booklet right there. And a lot of times before the meal's even over, I start the Advent wreath. And then a lot of times I'll say, where did you see Jesus? Or ask an open-ended question, as it relates to the reflection. And sometimes I get, little snarky answers from the teenagers. But what is so touching is, we're there trying our best to talk about our faith, to pray, and to prepare, for Christmas. So I can't say enough about, the Advent wreath, or, I have those little prayer booklets, I'm looking at one right now, just having these little resources. I also have a ton of children's books. The big tradition for me was I started collecting children's stories related to Christmas and Advent. My daughter, Tommy DePaulo wrote a beautiful book on Mother Our Lady Guadalupe. So I send my second grader to school with the book and the Juan Diego doll that my mom, gave us many years ago. And she was able to tell that story through the children's book, through the doll. So that's and I have a trunk, and then I just throw all the seasonal Christmas books in the trunk and then pull them out. So that's a nice tradition I like to do each year.
We've collected books as well. That's a really great thing to do and I'm going to start that with because I have grandkids now coming along, and I'm going to start giving them books. And then we also do ornaments with the year. And I'm going to start that's one of the traditions I'm doing now that I have children that are married and we have grandchildren. So
That's nice. Pat has a new tradition that he did because in his home, he was brought up Lutheran before he became a deacon in the Catholic Church. And his parents would read around the table Luke 2. And it was my first time hearing the Bible read at a table because I was a Catholic schoolgirl. I was 19 when I met my husband, and I'm 70. So you do the math. And so he would do that. So now especially when he goes to Amanda's house, which is the one that does the table, the kids to gather around grandpa, her friends, kids, and Pat, and our grandchildren that are there because we have to float houses on Christmas and to where we go each year. And so he reads Luke 2 and they all just listen up and then sometimes the kids will read Luke 2 and we'll sit on the rocking chair, and it's a very good tradition. That's what I meant about the older, I'm sure you all are catching on to the theme of this, is that we're 3 moms with a lot of children now gaining grandchildren, and our seasons, like someone said, change, and the seasons come and go in our lives and those of our children. And then we end up with like richer from what the fruit of what we did as a young mother. We try as young mothers to train them up, teach them virtue, thankfulness, the faith of the church, which it has to be taught. It can't be just like we didn't go to mass, but this is what people do in the Catholic Church. You have to do the act. It's word and deed. Father Kirby would always say, in word and deed, of course. And so we thank the mothers. Should we do our closing? I don't know if we're close to 45, and some people long shows like me, but some like shorter. I have enjoyed this and I've learned so much from you all. And thank you, Emily, for leading, and Jan for coming on board with all the different combination of faith stories and wisdom. That's my other show is Wow Mom, Woman of Wisdom. These are two wonderful women of God. So y'all want to do last words and then we'll.
Well,
yes,
I just
go ahead.
thank you. Go ahead, Ellen.
No, I'm not going. I was just, there's your last words. I'll give the last ones, but we're going to close the show. We love having Emily and Jana. They're friends, and we're all friends, but friends and sisters in the Lord. And we can live on all different parts of the coast. We can live from California to Augusta, or I live in Evanston or Macon, and we can have friendship over the Zoom. So I think that's grand. But go on, Emily.
Just again, everyone have a beautiful Advent and Christmas season. Don't sweat the little things. It's the peace, love, and joy of Jesus Christ. And we are a major contributor to the home and the culture of the home. So just keep that smile on your face and ask the Lord to strengthen you. So thanks.
Yes, thank you as well. And I know I came on just a little bit late, but thank you very much for having me.
No, you're fine.
I love it. I love it when we all get together.
So I was going to say at the end, I'm going to close off my last word, then you all tell how to get a hold of you. Sometimes people have questions. Well, Jesus has the answer, and he uses his vessels like Emily, Jane, and I to give wisdom to mothers. And sometimes you feel like, where do I go? And you feel like you want to call Della prayer or something. Well, call a mom that's been there before and done it. You may think your 5-year-old's never in a toilet train, but they do. You may think that these traditions seem too overwhelming, but in another season, when you don't have a newborn or aren't pregnant, you may think this is grand. I'm going to try the China. It's the favorite place. You try it. And then if it doesn't work, it's, oh, well, put the basket away and just pray for all the people that were in the basket, in the cards, because it's all about loving one another, isn't it? And loving Jesus in our Catholic faith. We have a very rich faith. So try something new this Advent and try to keep the love and joy and peace in your heart and then give it away. So Emily, do you want to tell how they can reach you?
Sure. You can reach me at emilyjaminet.com or learn more about the work I do to promote the Sacred Heart. I'm doing a daily reflection until Christmas, and that can be easily signed up at welcomehisheart.com.
Jan, how can they get a hold of you?
Yes, I am launching a website. I'm starting January 1st, and it's you can reach me at cultivatingheartsandhomes.com.
Very nice.
Y'all have a great Christmas.
Okay, and this is Ellen Mongan. You can reach me at wowellen@yahoo.com or check out my website, ellenmongan.com. So thank you for joining us and Go Tell the World. Soon we'll have a new face of Go Tell the World with the pictures of the co-hosts. You'll be able to, when they come on, you'll know who they are. Like you can read their little bio. So thank you all for being part of Go Tell the World. Why don't you all go out and tell someone the good news? He is risen and he lives in the hearts of his people, and he lives for all. He died for us. So see you later, ladies. Merry Christmas. Love you all.
Merry Christmas.
It takes me a minute. Y'all know. Here we go. And good night.